Mr. Spock, have you ever seen such fascinating creatures like these?
Captain, might I remind you that in a first contact situation with new life forms, one must show less emotional response and a bit more logic, and might I add in your case, a pinch more self-control.
But these neeks appear harmless, friendly, and perfectly...
Captain, might I assume you're ready for a new shirt? Again?
And a pair of pants, please.
Good morning, students. Welcome to school. Remember, the thought of the day is...
I'm scared.
Me too.
Where will we go?
Welcome to Ecology 101, the study of the nerd and geek in their natural habitat. I'm Gary.
I'm Steven.
I'm Nancy.
All right. Hey, we got a different cast mix up today, but it's all right. Well, thanks, Steven, too, with us. And yeah, Rudy had a rock and roll, so we're going to jump in. And he's brave enough to take on the stand today. You're going to make your stand.
Yeah, no, I didn't watch the series, full disclosure, but I have seen the original series, and I'm somewhat familiar with the novel.
Okay.
I'm familiar with other Stephen King stories.
Yes, very good. We do want to say before we start that this definitely is this is a show that it is a lot more adult language-wise, and like I said, when you get to Vegas, it's pretty much Vegas as you would think in the end times, right? So just be prepared if you're going to watch it, right? Just beware. And but some really great elements in this. So let's go for Angie. So this is horror. Why don't we have you lead out on this? What do you want to start off with, the book, or what do you want?
Well, number one, did you ever think that you would say this is not your 80s Stephen King?
Right, exactly. Oh my gosh.
It's more adult than Stephen King is.
Right. It worked though. It really just everything got amped up, and I remember seeing the one. Did I see the whole thing? I think I did. I couldn't quite get to the book. I was a little immature. I think I could do it now. Well, I was raised, really strict Christian home, and, reading certain things you did not read. And as you get older, you want to know about stuff, and you also learn how to filter. You learn how to filter certain things. Stephen King, some things you got to filter, so it's just the way it is. And, but horror is... this is where you and I both enjoyed something together, because I'm not a huge horror fan, but it's what you pick and choose, and this one definitely had some good stuff in there. So, real interesting story.
Oh, definitely. So, the book, I guess we should start
let's start with the book.
Because that's where most of us learned about Captain Trips and everything that happened.
Right.
The original book was 823 pages.
Wow. Holy cow.
And then... that's the book that I first got, and then I received the uncut version.
Oh my gosh!
And that,
what?
Some people, I'm seeing here, some people are saying 1,152 pages. Some are saying 13.
Wow.
So 8 pages. Someone even said 1,472 pages. All I know is that it was well over 1,000 pages.
Wow.
And I preferred the uncut version.
I am in the way of knowing things. I know you feel him.
I've read it like 20 times now.
Wow.
I thought it was a lot more in depth, and you got more information than you did with the original version.
Oh,
so
I'd like to know more stuff.
They put that out there.
Right. Oh, is this a lot more graphic? Oh.
Yeah, a lot more information, a lot more graphic.
Okay.
Just really cool.
Did they go into did they go into the the beginnings of Captain Trips, and they kind of did they spend more? What did they spend more time on talking about?
To be honest, at this point, I don't remember. I just remember being more in depth.
Okay, gotcha.
With the characters
More
and
the
things
characters,
like that.
right.
It rounded it out very nicely.
Sure.
I cannot give you a blow-by-blow, though.
No, that's okay. Why don't you give us the general storyline? What's going on here? That would be good. That'd be good too, huh?
Yeah.
It's a long story too.
Long story, yes.
Oh, very. The Stand starts out with people are starting to get sick.
Yeah.
And some people call it the plague. Some people call it Captain Trips.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically an illness that has started to people, and some of them die rather quickly
Mm-hmm.
from this illness, which is why a lot of people last year, when COVID became a thing, even though it started in 2019, we didn't know about it till last year. People were referring to it as Captain Trips and saying, did Stephen King predict the end of our world?
Gosh, right.
Yeah, so people are getting this disease. There was a soldier, I believe he was Army. He fled the Army base, or the base that he was at, when this virus escaped. And he became, patient zero for Captain Trips.
Right.
So when he escaped, he drove to the town of Arnett, Texas, which is in East Texas, and it's a fictional town.
Mm-hmm.
But he drove at a gas station, and that's where he died. And of course, that's how the virus got out.
Got it.
So Arnett, Texas is where Stu Redman is from.
Oh.
He's one of our main characters. Yeah. And so his town is put under quarantine by the CDC, and everybody, whether they have it or not, are shuffled up into their little containers, where they're monitored, and most of them die, but Stu never gets it, and they can't figure out why.
Yeah.
And then, of course, everybody from the CDC then dies because it's killing off pretty much everybody in the world.
99% of people, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah, except for two groups. One is the good group, and one is the bad group.
Welcome to the Boulder Free Zone. Stu Redman.
Yep.
And I don't remember it ever talking, I don't know if you guys do, but ever talking about the other parts of the world.
No, they don't. No, I don't think so. I think only at the end of the book they hint at a couple things, but
did they release it to other countries or something?
No one left the country, I don't think, right? And was it airborne? It was airborne, right?
Yeah.
It was airborne. It's possible, but maybe who knows? Maybe they just left, maybe very localized United States. But
yeah, I think it made for an easier story.
Yes.
Yeah. So the good group start dreaming about someone named Mother Abigail, Abigail Fremont. Fremantle's her name. And they start dreaming about her, and they start gravitating towards Boulder, Colorado.
Right.
And then the other group of people, the bad people, start dreaming about the Dark Man, Randall Flagg, basically the devil.
Yes.
And they all go to Las Vegas.
Yep.
So the two groups kind of split. They end up in where they're supposed to be, and then that's where everything really starts to happen, and decisions have to be made.
All I know is that we dreamed of her, and she was real.
She brought us all together, keep us safe in these uncertain times.
Yep. So here's what's interesting. Do you know why they were immune? Why were these people? Why is 1% immune to the Captain Trips?
I think it was just, designed by God.
Yes.
What, the book kind of alludes to. It's funny because I've been telling my friends, because I did have COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm telling my friends who didn't have COVID, and they've got all these new variants of it and all stuff, and saying, you better watch out, because I bet us people who had it are going to be immune to the variants. You guys are all going to die, and we're going to be the 1% that lives, like in Stephen King's book.
Right.
And then we have to go on and battle.
They were so what they said, what they alluded in the book was everyone who was not normal lived. So they had some kind of ailment, like the character that hold on, Stu. If you notice, the deck top, he had broken so many bones and had so many injuries that he had, like, his immune system was kind of really out of whack, and that's one reason why he didn't get it. His girlfriend, she had, what was it? You could tell she was very smart. A lot of them had, like, autism or things like that. Spectrum, yes. I'm going to embarrass myself because I don't have all the names in front. I didn't grab everybody's names in front of me, but character-wise. But and I know that Tom Collins, is it Tom Collins? No, Big Tom, right? Is that right?
Yeah, Tom Cullen.
Cullen, yeah. He was special needs, yes. And so it's just interesting. A lot of them had, you could tell it in Vegas. There were some pretty weird people.
In the world that was, they told you it was wrong to want more. Their time is at an end. Our time has begun.
But the other ones, they didn't fit in with society always, or they were just off. They were the people that were just off a little bit, you know. And it's just interesting. It's kind of like the, you know, the underdogs or the people who just didn't quite make it in the bigger society. You know, they seem like they're the ones that had their day in the sun, you might say, too. So it's interesting.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So two sides are drawn, good and evil, and then about the big showdown, right, comes too. So
yeah.
Yes. Great show. And so in the book, I'm sure it went into time, right? This one jumped now I remember that, and we're talking about the series in the 80s.
Yeah.
I do remember that one, and it is different. Definitely different. I want to say the gentleman who is blind with the eye. Boy, this is terrible. I should have all the names in front of me, and I do not.
Are you talking about Nick? He was
Nick. Yeah, I want to say it might have been Rob Lowe who played the character in the original one too. So it's interesting the different people who played different roles back in the 80s and these newer ones. But that was a good show. It was really good, and it kept true to a lot of it, but they definitely upped it, you know, in lots of ways. So yeah.
And you were correct. Nick Andrus was played by Rob Lowe in the 80s.
And he in his
that was 1994.
Yeah. So he was deaf and blind in real life, but when he talked to Mother Abigail, he could communicate to her. He was normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and Whoopi Goldberg played Mother Abigail in this one. So it's an interesting choice in character. Yeah.
In the new one?
New one, yeah. 108, I think she was. And then we had a number of Greg Kinnear was in this one. And the gentleman who plays Stu, been in lots of I've seen him James Marsden, yes.
Who's producing this one? Who's doing the new series?
Was it through CBS All Access? Ooh, now you're gonna make me research. Who's right?
Yeah, I know. I'm researching.
I know, because it has a really good cast of characters in it. Really well done. But in comparing the two shows, I think that this one definitely has, and that one was, it had some, pretty good intense part. I think that one followed. It might have been longer series. This one tended to jump big chunks of time. So
because it covers a long span of time,
it's
right?
a long span of time. Oh yeah. So they totally. Oh, and my computer's dead. They totally. But it worked though. They could jump some things, like when Stu met. Oh my gosh. Boy, it's terrible. You just watched the show. Boy, I'm really prepared, aren't I? When he met his girl, right? They were strangers, but then they end up, being together in Boulder. So, and their whole trip across the country.
Bill told us that there are two sides. There's a good, and then there's a deep well of darkness.
Really, really cool. Just that they could pull that off. And then, of course, they had to walk cross country to get places. You're like, how long would that actually take from Boulder to Vegas? It's 700 and something miles.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how far things are until they have to start walking.
Yes, there are other modes. Yeah, but they.
And I know, Gary, you think that the new miniseries outweighs the old miniseries, and I agree with you to a point. The one thing that really bothered me is it wasn't a linear timeline.
Yes.
And I really wish they had done a linear timeline, because the jumping back and forth, I don't think that you got the full extent or full weight of what was happening to those characters and how they got to where they got to.
Right. You lost a lot. Yeah. Especially in New York. Their trip across, I know some of the characters that were leaving from their hometown, they went into that a lot more too. Especially as Larry. I know he was traveling. There was a lot of stuff that happened in between. But I do remember the stuff from New York and all kinds of things.
It's Larry Underwood.
How do you know who I am?
How do you think?
Mother Abigail?
Now, was Nadine, was she in the original one too?
Yes.
Okay, so same storyline.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Same storyline for Nadine and everything.
Okay.
And I really felt that because they didn't do it linear, I felt like Larry Underwood's character was underdeveloped in this new version.
Yes, yeah, a lot. He's the musician, right? And that music was very important to this whole thing too, because that kind of
I remember the hardest thing about even the old series in the 90s was the fact that you have this humongous list of cast and characters. How do you condense that over a long period of time?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Well, but we have that capability now. They could have actually extended this out to 2 full seasons on Netflix or CBS or anything,
Easy.
To make it what it needed to be.
Right.
But I did feel that we lost some of those characters in the non-linear timeline that they chose to do.
Right. Franny was the girl. Sorry about that. Odessa Young. Franny was... Yes.
It's always something odd about like Stephen King adaptations because to me sometimes they don't land well and sometimes they land really well, and it's either someone's tinkering with his original stuff and it lands it better, or he gets control over the whole thing.
It's like an Adam Sandler movie. You never know what you get.
Yeah, it's weird because
Right?
there's some where it's like you really like the film and then you read the book and you're like, oh, or vice versa.
Right. Oh, it is hard.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, consistency. We were just talking about that too. You know who threw me off was the Randall Flagg character, because I'm watching going, hey.
Because of the other novels?
No. Because I thought it was Viggo Mortensen. From Aragorn?
Aragorn.
I'm looking going, hey, that's not him. I'm like, what? I go, you sure? He goes, yeah, Alexander Skarsgard. Skarsgard, yeah. Ooh, but he looks a lot like him. And I was just like, wow, that's a really good total role change for him to do, from a mellow character to this, Though he did play Randall Flagg, which we say is like the devil character, the Antichrist. He had a really interesting storyline, how he dealt with his anger. He did not like to get angry, and he did. You better watch out.
Calls himself the Dark Man. Mostly I just see his wolf.
They did a good job. Wild, crazy, just and messes with your mind, and but that and then Whoopi is the other end. It's just really, they did a good job of making the stand on both sides. Who's standing for good and who's standing for evil. So, and a lot of them were torn, and a couple of them switched. Well, we know 2 that switched sides and wanted to take out everybody, and that was crazy. So, that stuff.
Now, Alexander Skarsgård is the son of Stellan Skarsgård, who's a famous Swedish actor.
From Thor.
But his brother,
From It.
Bill Skarsgård, plays Pennywise in the new
Pennywise.
Oh, wow. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we got a family of actors there. That's
they don't
awesome.
look alike. They don't look alike at all. You wouldn't know it unless you knew who they were. But
right.
So it was really cool to see. Because Bill Skarsgård was phenomenal as the new Pennywise. Not to take anything away from Tim Curry.
Yeah.
But but now we have his brother playing Randall Flagg, and he really outdid the role. He did much better than Jamie Sheridan, who was terrifying back in the day. But
yeah,
I think Alexander Skarsgård played it much
so
better.
Good bad characters, man. There you go. Wow.
Well, this character shows up in other Stephen King novels too.
He does.
Right.
Yep.
So that's interesting to see how he's portrayed. Or did they leave room in any of the series for them to tie in other Stephen King works? I know he just tried to tie all his work together recently.
Randall Flagg is the most enduring villain that Stephen King has.
His multiverse.
Yeah.
Right.
He's in the Dark Tower as the
his name's a little different though. Oh, is he the man?
He's
the
Man in Black.
He's
like I've read the Dark Tower.
Yeah, it is him. Yeah.
And then I watched the movie later, and I was like,
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But I know that there was talk of trying to make like a Kingverse, like to try and link these characters and worlds together. But
the Stand is the closest thing to the Kingverse.
It also turns out that he is the Pennywise version in it. It's like
all evil.
That Randall Flagg is like the big evil that looms across many of the books.
Wow.
And he has so many names. One of them you'll probably remember, He Who Walks Behind the Rose.
Oh, yes.
That was from the Children of the Corn.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So, so the Stephen King verse, it's filled with Randall Flagg.
Right. And what I was going to say, the Dark Tower is pretty much, he said that was his magnum opus. That's the closest thing you have to the Kingverse, because all the stories sort of converge in there too. So that would make sense that he does show up as a couple different characters. I think about it, but it is Randall Flagg. Yep. So, and he does he uses the same initials and changes the name sometimes too. But interesting character. And then you of course have hold on, my computer just went funky. Is it Lloyd? Lloyd is the one. Lloyd and Fanny are the ones that.
Lloyd.
Yeah, interesting character. His whole thing too. What a torn. They saw. See, Randall Flagg. It's interesting because they either see the cornfield, which I think represents the good side, or they'll see the wolf and Vegas, whatever. But a couple characters saw the wolf in the cornfield, which kind of meant that they were riding the they're on the edge, right? They could have been turned, and Lloyd was one of them, and Nadine was too.
You want to puke, son? You go right ahead.
I'm fine. Just need a minute.
They turned and they wanted to destroy. Well, they pretty much thought they would kill Mother Abigail and all the leaders, so they planned a bomb. So they had all kinds of things that. And I don't know if that happened in the original one or not, but I know they were trying to, blow them up with a big nuclear bomb at some point, and that ending was really interesting too. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Not to give too much away, but the ending is kind of similar.
Yes.
In the 2020 as it was to 94.
It was still very powerful. It was really good. So. Yeah. Added a couple of characters in there. Yeah. Oh gosh, we're jumping, but it's I like the fact that they sent in spies, which I think they did before, and they sent spies and they didn't tell each other they were going, and Tom was there, and it was great that Tom, who's a very simple guy, and I don't know if he was in the original one or not, but yes, his mind could not be read, so he was like the secret. He was the one that kind of undid a lot of stuff too. It's just, he good character.
Well, what do you think Stephen King's trying to say with the novels? As far as he's always seems to get like good groups versus bad groups. He likes to play with post-apocalyptic and kind of spiritual.
Yeah, he's searching. I think so too. And in this one, they really do talk a lot about people and they struggle with their faith and where they want to be at. And one of the things is, so Mother Abigail was sort of the spiritual leader, and she heard from God. She had her doubts too because, God, did I really hear you?
There's bitter days ahead. Death and terror. The dark man grows stronger every day. And soon he'll destroy all who stand against him.
But when she went through her whole process and kind of predicted what was going to happen, they did some things out of order they shouldn't have. They did some things in Simpson Spies so they kind of messed up the plan. And one of the things I think that he brought out of this was faith is it's in the struggles, it's in the challenges, and it's not always going to work out the way you think they are, but there's a bigger plan. Like when she predicted who was going to live and who's going to die. One's going to fall, There's a scene, I guess I could tell them the scene when they captured Larry, and then they switched out a character, the lady. I think she was supposed to be someone else. The Indian lady that was with him, remember? Their guide?
Oh, yeah. I was trying to...
What is her name?
Remember that, too.
Yes. Oh, no, it wasn't I'm trying to look on her. It wasn't Julie. But they both were, Greg Kinnear, which is interesting. Okay, so 3 of them were sent, spies. Greg Kinnear he's a very practical. He's almost like the voice of reason and heart at the same time. So kind of like how faith applies to real life, right?
People are terrified of him. Is that all he has over you? Is fear? That's it?
And there's a character. I hope I'm not blowing this for you, but there's a character who's sort of like Randall Flagg's right-hand man, but he's very uncertain about himself and doubts a lot of stuff, and he got sent to prison because they thought he killed a girl, but his friend did, and he froze, but he was right there, so he never actually killed anybody. So Greg Kinnear calls him because they put him in this, they put him on trial, and Greg Kinnear's calling him out. He's up against all this whole crazy mob of people, and he calls this guy and says, "You know what? This is all a sham." But Buddy goes, "Somehow you don't." He doesn't trust you. And he starts putting doubt in him. He starts putting doubt in some of the people in Las Vegas. And they go, are you falling because of fear? You know, where's your faith, that kind of thing. So it starts a whole chain reaction of people stand up for their faith, because the two of the people were in the pool and they said, I shall fear no evil, and they start beating him. And they start filling the pool up. They're going to drown him, and they chain them to the bottom of the pool. But out in the crowd, you hear someone says, I will fear no evil, and Randall Flagg's like, stop that voice. But it spreads, and so it's very powerful, and that's just before everything goes down. But we don't know what happened to the two people in the pool. We assume they probably died, but Randall Flagg says, look at those fearful people, and they're very calm and praying. They're trusting God at the end. And I think there's that contrast, right, of evil is destructive and dangerous, and faith is something that'll get you through anything. That's what I took away from it, and willing to give your life for. And it's just interesting. Evil will sometimes tell you, you're afraid, and blah, blah. And they're basically, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid of you because I know where my faith is. So it had some.
Yeah, Stephen King plays a lot on fear. Obviously, he does a lot of that kind of stuff. So it was interesting
fear,
to see
faith.
how he brings in fear as a motivating factor. But when people do post-apocalyptic stuff, they typically will bring in some kind of, what does it do to humanity? So, you know, like with people with the zombie apocalypses and things, it's really the people that are bad are the ones that are alive, the left alive, and how they're going to treat each other. So I know a lot of the tropes that I've seen with, like, you know, Walking Dead or other types of shows pick up a lot from this particular book, because there's always like another tribe, and then there's little people going back and forth.
Yeah.
So. But dealing with the ensemble cast, you know, with these huge cast of characters, always interesting to watch how they put those together.
What did you think, Angie, when it talked about their faith and their stand? I think she mentioned that too, right? About making your stand.
Oh yeah, and they all have to make their own choices, and that's really what it comes down to. The one thing that got me a little bit about Nadine in the new one is that, you know, there's been talk about, she was groomed by Randall Flagg
from a kid.
the time she was a child,
right?
And so she didn't really have a choice. But in the original, it wasn't really like that. Like, everybody still had a choice, you know, and she made her choice in the end, and that was to do the things that she did. You know, so I felt like fear played a lot into it, but also choice.
Sure.
You can go to the very end and do things wrong, but then you always have that choice to turn around and make things right again.
Yeah, right. It might cost your life.
So I thought that really played into it.
Yeah.
You mentioned fear. You know, that plays a very big role in all of Stephen King's books, I think.
Yeah. It's horror.
You know, Gerald's Game, the woman she's tied to the bed, or handcuffed to the bed, and she can't get out. Her husband had a heart attack. And so she's just there, and fear is everything that she goes through in that book and that movie also.
Wow.
The movie It.
Yeah, it's all about fear.
It feeds on fear, right?
Movies, the children and the adults all have this fear, and that's how Pennywise kind of, appears to them. It takes their biggest fears and amplifies it and makes it hard for them to survive that.
Right.
So I think Stephen King always has that thing of fear, and then obviously the idea of faith. You have to have faith in something to get past that fear, but then you also have to make the right choices.
Sure.
To get to the side of good or the side of evil.
Right. Yeah, and definitely had that through there too, and a lot of really great moments. And I think especially as it wound down to the end, is that they Larry and Stu too. You know, a lot of things that didn't work out. Like, he was the leader, but he never quite made it to Vegas, and it was great to see him. I think Tom's the one who carried him back with a broken leg. But the thing is, I like the fact that life began again, almost like an Adam and Eve thing, because he and Franny took off and they left Boulder and went out to see what's in the world. And they had that last little That's new because, yes, and they had the last confrontation with Randall Flagg because he got either escaped or I think God sent him somewhere else. I have no idea what happened to him. That's kind of a mystery right there.
You shouldn't be here.
I brought you iron.
I told you to bring it to the plane.
My knife for you.
because God brought it all down, the hand of God.
Yeah.
And the way they changed it was
Very Deus Machina.
Yeah. And they had the little guy. What's he called? The little guy at the missile? What'd you call him? The junk man? Angie? Oh, so there?
Trash can man.
Trash can man.
Trash can man.
Who loved explosions, and they told him to bring the bomb, and he totally brought it to the wrong place. I have a feeling, though, because he kept saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I have a feeling that's what he meant all along. I think God used that little radioactive man for to do his, because he kept telling Randall Flagg, "I'm sorry, but this is basically, I'm sorry I had to bring it here." Like he was told what to do, and that's interesting. It's like he and God had a talk about it or something. I don't know. Did you get that at all? Did you hear him talk about that?
I remember the thing that he always said was, my life for yours.
Oh.
That was the thing that he said a lot, but he was talking directly to Flagg. So,
yes.
I think that, yes, God used him to bring the radioactive, nuke head, was it? I don't exactly know what it is because I'm not that science geek.
Oh, it was a nuclear. It was the top of. It was a missile. It was a warhead. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. To bring that back there, and his body is dying and decrepit, and but he's still moving, and you would think that would be impossible for someone who is so sick with radioactive sickness. I know there's a name for it, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
But he was so at the end of his life, but yet, God uses everybody.
Yeah.
And even though he was a bad character, he was a bad person, doing the wrong things, God pushed him forward to keep going to deliver this nuke head to the wrong place.
Right. That might have been it too. It was all, yep, and then the hand of God showed up, and there you go. It's just like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So, the end. The one character, just to go back a bit, the one character that you said they changed to the female Native American, that was Ralph Bretner.
Okay.
Was the name of that character in the original miniseries and in the book.
Right. So they changed up a little bit, and it was good. They added more, strong female characters in there, so they would mix it up a little bit. And then, of course, they have one final confrontation, which I think is new, with Randall Flagg and Franny, and they saw the future. She basically, they brought in, I think the little girl was supposed to be an angel. I think that was in the cornfield. So that was interesting. So that's not in the book, right?
That's not in the book or the new, the old miniseries from the 90s. It was strictly a new ending.
Right.
And a lot of people, commented that this was a great new ending because it gave Franny a new chance.
Yes.
She never got to make her stand because she was pregnant. And now she had her opportunity to make her stand where she didn't in the first one. But, at the end also, without giving away too much, it almost seems like there's a possibility for this to go on.
But that's how the book ended, though, with Randall Flagg being somewhere else, right?
Yeah. So there is a possibility, and in another part of the world also.
Right.
So there's a possibility of something else happening, but we don't know if that's ever going to happen or if it's just going to leave it like that where it's kind of open-ended.
Right. Which is how the book ended, so who knows, right? Like you said, some of these will just tie it up. We're done. But that was good.
Yeah, sometimes King seems like some of the books I like, some of them don't. He does. I like his characters typically, but the way he ends the story can be really frustrating sometimes for me.
Very abrupt.
Very abrupt. You're like, okay, we're done with that character.
Right. And they all lived.
But I'm always fascinated with the way he's able to write a character or to give it a backstory of some kind and give it an actual trauma of some kind.
Yeah, right. And it sounds like this.
Yeah, and what's funny, you mentioned about his inability to write a good ending, or to write an ending that's satisfying. That's actually one of the things in It Chapter 2, the new movie, that he played. Stephen King usually shows up somewhere.
Yeah, he's the
in,
Alfred Hitchcock of his own
movie
film.
Or the series. Yeah. In It Chapter 2, he showed up as a bookseller. He was at a bookstore.
Of course.
And the, what is it, Bill Denborough? I want to say the name right. He's the writer in it. So he grows up from a kid, becomes a writer when he's older. And his critics are always telling him, you can't ever end a story. You don't have this inability to write a good ending. And the critics are tearing him apart for it. And then when he walks into this bookstore and there's the bookseller and the bookseller Stephen King telling him, you know, your endings really suck. That's what happened to Stephen King all this time, all these years. People were saying, wow, your endings are terrible. So it was kind of like tongue-in-cheek fun that Stephen King could tell that to one of his fake characters. Yeah, you suck at endings.
Yeah, at least you can take a joke. Some people can't.
Yes, they're fine, just the way they are. Yep. Well, there you go. Hey, have room to grow, right? So there you go. But there you go, man. Interesting. So, yeah, if you haven't seen this one, I mean, again, I would say, you know, Vegas is intense. Yeah,
I'm gonna wait and see, because I mean, there's some things I really like about Stephen King. There are other things that are a little challenging, like some of the novel parts of it are very, very troubling.
Yes.
But the movies I thought were entertaining to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes the adaptations of his work become really well, like Shawshank Redemption or something like that.
Yep.
But and then seeing the two versions of, like, you know, of The Shining, you know, and then seeing Dr. Sleep,
the new one, yes.
Just seeing how they piece those together. But watching his stuff is interesting, because whenever I think of Stephen King, he's really good at writing characters, the way that he shapes them, and I've always admired that.
Yeah. Sure. This story had a lot of they're all very real developed characters, and I think they did a good job of everybody having their storyline. So and their stand, and really well done too. So wow, the big monster book. I should take it sometime.
Is this
you need to tackle it.
Yes.
So now, as this series, is this a series for television, or is this like more of like your HBO Max type of series? What is the rating on some of these, so people kind of know what going in? What
it's an R. I'm guaranteed.
Is it an R? Oh, okay.
I would think so, right? And it's a mini series, correct?
Yeah.
I think it's 9 episodes.
Series. It's like 9 episodes long, and it's on CBS All Access.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is now called Paramount Plus.
Did they switch us over?
Yeah. Well, they merged back again, right? CBS and Paramount.
Did you not listen to Patrick Stewart? We're all back.
I can't keep track of all these companies.
I know. I can't keep track of the streaming services.
Paramount Plus.
Right. Wow.
But because they made it directly for, you know, a streaming channel, much like Netflix, they can really do anything they want to. So it's definitely an R-rated movie. It definitely has a lot of cussing.
Yeah.
You get to see a little butt.
There's a lot more than that. Vegas is pretty intense. Vegas is so intense. So you just have to kind of know going in, you know, but and people, the F word is there. I mean, people get angry about stuff, but it's so I mean, it's like anything. It's sometimes seeing that storyline, and then it's like, because it's filtered. I would not recommend for young kids. So if you want to filter it before you see it, so, but
definitely, you know, I recommend, you know, if you haven't heard of this, you haven't watched The Stand or read it or done anything with it, you know, definitely watch this miniseries. But go back and watch the 1994 one, because before this was all created with Netflix and stuff, we would always say that The Stand was like the best, you know, B movie out there besides it, you know, even though it was a miniseries. When they released it on DVD and on VHS, it was in their own little, you know, it was like a movie. So, you know, it really was very good back for the day, too. And the book, obviously, you have to go back and read the original canon.
Right.
Well, I remember it was a big phenomenon. Like, I mean, even at the time, there were other series that he was doing, but I remember that series, everybody was watching it because it was like a mini series even then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was popular back in the mini series.
Yeah, a lot of his series were popular. You know, even when he tried to redo when he tried to redo when he was doing the Overlook in his own version of that. And that was interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it was interesting to see what he never liked Stanley Kubrick's version.
Oh, I've never seen that one. When was that one made in the?
It was a miniseries. I don't know if it was in the early 2000s or the late 90s.
Interesting.
Well, he did his own version of The Shining, and because he did not like Kubrick's version.
Yeah. Wow. You know what that reminds?
He did, and that's the one with. We actually just talked about it the last recording we did. The one with Steven Weber and Rebecca De Mornay.
Okay.
And that's the one that was actually filmed mostly at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado.
Interesting. Okay.
And what's really interesting about the Dr. Sleep film is it's kind of a sequel to both of those. It takes the hybrids of both of the book and some and puts the new and makes it a sequel, but not. So it's really clever to me. I thought nobody watched it for some reason, but it was very cleverly made.
Wait, the Dr. Sleep? Oh no, it was great. We
Yeah,
did it. We did a piece on that a while back.
It just
we
didn't.
did a podcast on it.
Oh, did you? Yeah,
Yes.
nobody. Well, it didn't do well at the box office. That's why.
It was good.
So
Very good. A lot of good elements
So
in
what
it.
Mike Flanagan, the director of Dr. Sleep, wanted to do is that, at the end of the book, the Overlook Hotel blows up. There is no more book.
Right.
There's nothing else to write. And then in the movie, of course, it's still standing. But the series or the movie with Jack Nicholson was much different than the book, and Stephen King always hated it because it wasn't what he wrote. So then, of course, they did the miniseries of The Shining with Rebecca De Mornay and Steven Weber, but that didn't really get as much traction because the Stephen King, the Stanley Kubrick one was the one that everybody loved so much.
Anybody
So what
here?
happened is Mike Flanagan had just directed Gerald's Game. And Gerald's Game was largely considered the book that was unfilmable because, like I said, woman and her husband go to a cabin, he handcuffs her to the bed, and then he has a heart attack and dies, and she's left tied to the bed. So what could you make a movie with out of that? Mike Flanagan did an amazing job with that movie. It's so good. I highly recommend it. And then, so he had already kind of gained Stephen King's trust, So when he decided he wanted to do Dr. Sleep, which is the sequel to The Shining and the books, he wanted to make it to marry the Stanley Kubrick version with the Stephen King version and make it kind of so that it works together so that you could watch it and it could be the sequel to either the book or the movie. So he had to go and get blessings from not just Stephen King, but from the Stanley Kubrick.
The double blessings.
And he wasn't going to move forward if he didn't get their approval, but both of them approved, and we have now Dr. Sleep on the movie, and it can kind of follow both of those. So
that's good.
He did a phenomenal job.
If he had called it The Shining 2 Dr. Sleep, it probably would have done a ton of money. I really do think sometimes it's just the marketing was really poorly done. But it was, when I watched it, it was just really amazing to mix those two and still pull off a really good performance and advance kind of what The Shining is and a little bit more about the lore of that particular power. So I enjoyed that movie, and I tell people like, this is really good. If you're, I'm a fan of The Shining, of the Kubrick Shining. And so, to see that they're marrying the two in the Dr. Sleep, I was really pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
So
all kinds of good stuff out there. It's just discovering it, right?
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Yeah, and I actually got to watch Dr. Sleep at a historical Estes Park Theater, which is Estes Park has the Stanley Hotel where he got the inspiration for the Shining. So it came out the weekend we were doing the book signing out there. So a bunch of us authors went to the historical theater there in Estes Park, Colorado, and we watched Dr. Sleep in this amazing theater.
That's awesome.
And so that was a cool experience in itself.
Well, and I'll tell you that as we kind of tie up, though, my wife, I had mentioned the show, and she first saw the first openings when they come in the church and you see all the bodies. She's like, "What is this show?" And then within like 5-10 minutes, she's like, "Can we watch the next episode?" I go, "It doesn't come out till next week." She goes, "What?" She goes, "Oh, I really like this." And that just so you know, she does not like all the scary, gory stuff. She really enjoyed this show. So I'm like, wow, that said a lot, because she liked the whole element with the characters and what's going on. And there's some scary parts to it. But she goes, but this is Stephen King. I go, yeah. It's like, so you know what? I don't know if you're not a big Stephen King fan, this might be a place to start because there's a lot in it, right? Just again.
You really need to go in and you have to have a strong filter.
Yes, just make sure your filters are high. If you can, if you gotta zip through, that's fine. But it's sort of like The Walking Dead. I know it's great character story. It's just I don't do all the gore. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just I guess you have to kind of know your level.
You do. You need to know your limits.
Well,
yes.
That's why you have me.
Oh, there you go. She goes, close your eyes now. Now open your eyes now. It's like, okay, thank you. Exactly. No, I know. And you know what? It's different genres for different people. Hey, not everybody gets sci-fi. They go, I don't know why you like this. And I go, well, I tell my wife I like the new Star Trek. She enjoyed it because the characters, I go, that's what it's all about. It's just set in a sci-fi world. They're good characters. So it's kind of like you said, you break down the normies. He uses that word normie too. Yeah. Tell them not the non-nerds. Okay, this is how it works, the rules. Genre rules. So, well, good stuff. Any last shots on The Shining? Anything that I'm Shining. Sorry, well, I got Stephen King. The Stand.
The Stand.
Yes. Oh, anything else you guys want to Anything else? The last things about it? They're all out, 9 episodes, right? I think it is.
Yep, all of them are out. You can binge watch it like we do everything else nowadays. But yeah, I highly recommend. You know, if you're interested, if you like post-apocalyptic, which everybody loves post-apocalyptic right now, give it a whirl. You know, but make sure that you're, you know, try to do all three. You know, do the book.
There we go.
Preferably the uncut version. Do the original miniseries from '94, and then do this one on
Oh, there you go.
All Access.
Right, you get all the parts of this. Right, there you go. And it's a standalone thing, so there you go. And hopefully you enjoy it. So, great stuff. Well, I'm still Gary.
I'm still Steven.
And I'm still Angie.
All right, class is dismissed.
The world is now a blank page, and it is there. You must make your stand.
Come run on with me. Boom.
Gary?
Yeah.
Why am I sitting in a hot tub?
And holding bowls of cereal?
Well, just an idea I had for a commercial for my upcoming book, Chronology Fistful of Chronotons.
Okay, explain.
Well, my main character, Levy, invents a water-based time machine and is in a race against time to save his family, hence the hot tub.
So it's just the hot tub time?
It's not the hot tub time machine.
All right. Hot tub makes sense, I guess. But what's up with the cereal?
Well, when I was writing the book, you guys kept saying Chronotons sound like a breakfast cereal.
It does, actually, that's true.
So we're eating bowls full of Chronotons in the hot tub with 2.
That's the power of podcasting, Gary. Nobody can tell we're sitting in a hot tub eating a bowl of cereal.
All right. So let's dry up and think of a decent commercial for Gary's book.
Right. Hey, don't know if you're out there writing a book or have an idea for a book, but I'll tell you what, one of the things I found out with putting together books I've been working on, of course, my friend John Pepe, that an editor is huge. It's like having a co-author, actually, someone to really invest in your work and really gets you, ask you those tough questions and really get your work ready for, well, maybe you're self-publishing or going to a traditional publisher. Check out By the Hand Editing. Angie Martin, you've heard her on our show. She's actually one of our hosts now. Has that online, which you can find on Facebook. Great. We've really enjoyed getting to use their service. And I tell you what, we're going to keep coming back because they're great people. They do a great service, and it's a great price. So I would encourage you, if you haven't got a chance to check them out, By the Hand Editing. That's Angie Martin. And they have some fantastic deals and prices for you that work with you and be able to help you get that book ready for wherever your journey takes you. So thank you so much for checking them out, and tell them Necology sent you.
Thanks for listening to Necology 101.
Thanks, everybody.
If you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with what's new in the fandom universe. You can find Necology 101 on Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, or wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts. We love to hear from our fans, and your input helps make the show possible. Find us on Facebook and Instagram at God Among Geeks, or you can contact us at necology101class@gmail.com. We know you have a lot of fandom choices out there, so thanks for including us in your universe. Because we are the knights who still say, Nick!
A little nonsense now and then is relished by the wisest men.